So just wanted to go over those few things again. So again, absolute most important thing. If you only get one thing out of this whole video, it's don't be vague. Be specific. Be specific. Don't be vague. Don't be vague. Be specific. All right. Probably said that enough now. Consider why you are interested in the story. Why are you interested in the story? What is it about the story that was interesting to you? Maybe they threw an off-the-wall statistic that you just thought was ridiculous and crazy. How can you relate that back to the theme? Reverse engineer who you're talking to. Just remember, what is the audience here? Is it sales professionals, marketing professionals, people that are working in ABM? Is it IT? Are they in technology? Are they entrepreneurs? Just starting there, you've already narrowed it a lot, helped it make more specific and less vague. So go ahead, figure out who you're talking to, reverse engineer that piece. Make sure it's easy to understand and clear. Make sure it leads to reaction. I always put this hashtag put a stake in the ground with some of my writers. If it didn't put a stake in the ground on something, if it didn't make a stance on something in your blog, it's going to be hard to do this with your headline or with your whatever you wrote. But really try to make sure that you're putting a stake in the ground, and just go ahead and don't try to, I don't want to say anything too, I want to make this as indifferent as possible to make everybody happy. That's not what we're trying to do. I mean, don't be politically controversial, but it's okay to say, maybe they talked about why ABM is dead. So you can say 4 reasons ABM is dead. And you might be writing, the next day, the exact opposite, but we're ghostwriting, so that's okay. Just go ahead and put that stake in the ground. Make it actionable. So go ahead and make it actionable. 9 ways to do this. 4 reasons why this. How to do this. So there you go, guys. And then I just wanted to fire off, rapid fire, a few of our headlines that we really, really like here that we've used. And so 3 secrets to a successful rebrand. Boom. It's about rebranding. There's 3 secrets to it. And even though it doesn't explicitly say this, if you're rebranding something, you're either a marketing professional or you're probably the owner of the company. You're either a CMO, head of marketing, or you own the company yourself. So by saying that, you've already limited it down to those people psychologically without having to say, this is for entrepreneurs. It is for entrepreneurs, or it is for heads of marketing. 3 leadership lessons from bootstrapping to $150 million. So again, 3 lessons on it. It's specific. It's about going from bootstrapping to $150 million. How to get traffic on Facebook without spending a dime on ads. Boom. This is about getting traffic on Facebook without spending any money on ads. Super, super specific. And again, this helps filter out people that are not going to do ads. This isn't ads on Facebook. I mean, if it said ads on Facebook, I might read that as a consumer. I might be like, maybe it's going to tell me which ads not to look at. I wouldn't probably read that article ever because the headline's so bad, but it doesn't filter out anything and get to that niche group of people. It's actually good. It's better to have the right people and just a less people total, but make sure you really get the right people there, than it is just to have a bunch of people that probably weren't interested now be frustrated that they read it, if they read it. Podcasting isn't about your audience. It's about your guests. Do you see how that one put a stake in the ground? Because a lot of people think podcasting is about your audience. And what the headline is, podcasting isn't about your audience. It's about your guests. This puts a firm stake in the ground. You cannot get past that headline without having to think, do I agree with that? Do I disagree with that? And maybe you disagree, but people might read it anyways for disagreeing. They're like, I disagree with that. Why did they say that? Oh, wow. I see what their point is there. Why Wistia took on $17 million in debt instead of selling the company. Wistia is a pretty big name in that world. Maybe not everyone knows that, but in that world, that's a big deal. And this is exactly why they did this. They took on all this debt instead of selling their company. That would be interesting to an entrepreneur. They'd be like, I don't know, why did they take on debt instead of selling the company? Let's see, what's another one on here that we have? 9 questions you need to ask before you migrate to cloud computing. So if you were somebody that is, maybe you're a CTO, you're considering moving over everything to cloud computing, and you're Googling that, and you come across 9 questions you need to ask before you migrate to cloud computing, you're going to be like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and read that. It's specific. It tells you what it's about. You know instantly from the headline. And if you're not interested in cloud computing, you're not going to read it, and that's fine. We're trying to get people that are interested in cloud computing. Could you handle an hour interview with Elon Musk? She did. Boom. This is super interesting because it doesn't totally tell you what it's about, but it does throw in Elon Musk, and that was probably the most. My guess is I didn't. That was the most interesting thing about this entire podcast was, wow, Elon Musk. That was probably some off the wall random thing that was thrown in there, and so the person writing the headline was like, oh, okay, that's the most interesting thing. How can I tie that into what this is about? The company that podcast was for, it is specific. It may not seem it off the bat. Is called On the DLPR, and anyways, they help people with public relations. So you would be scrolling through their stuff, looking for how to do interviews. So that's why the word interview was in there, and be like, oh, okay, this is how Elon Musk was handling it, or how someone handled Elon Musk in an interview. So can you handle an hour interview with Elon Musk? She did. So again, it puts a stake in the ground. It's like, whoa, it's kind of dramatic. You can't really get past that without having some sort of reaction to it. How to make your employees and customers feel safe in a hashtag #MeToo world. Boom. It doesn't directly say this is for leaders, but it hits a couple different categories there. How to make your employees, so it doesn't say, hey, people who are managers, this is for your employees, but you instantly know that because it's saying how to make your employees feel safe. Boom, there you go. And customers. So just by adding that in, now you're also talking to people that are maybe frontline managers or maybe sales managers of sales reps. Feel safe. So now you know it's about workplace safety or emotional safety and a hashtag #MeToo world. So that was also drawing on, obviously, the Me Too movement. So it had a lot of different things in there. So it was kind of, there was some newsjacking in there. It was being specific to who it was talking to, and it told you what it was about. Let's see. I think those are probably my favorites on here. Great. Oh, how disruption is changing the way we educate our kids. Super interesting. So it's talking to everyone because it's talking specifically about parents. But you might also be interested in that if you're just an educator. So that one's super interesting, and it's talking about disruption in a new way. So you're talking about disruption in kids, which are two things that don't usually go together. We don't really usually think of children in disruption, but this is like kind of makes you again stop and jars you. Like, oh wow, I never really thought about how digital disruption was changing the way that our kids are being educated. And you can't really, you're gonna think about that the rest of the day. You may never ever read that blog. My guess is you will if you see that, or listen to that podcast if you see that headline. But you're going to think later, and you're probably going to come back to that like, wow, I really wonder how is disruption changing the way our kids are being educated. You're going to have a reaction to that. It didn't say disruption, or how, education of our kids is changing. We all know education of our kids is changing. It's changed for, every day it's changed for thousands of years. So that wouldn't have said anything if it said education is changing. But by saying how disruption is changing the way we educate our kids, you're like, my goodness, that gives you all these ideas and conjures up all these ideas of how digital technology is changing the way we're educating our kids. Okay, thank you guys so much. I hope these videos were helpful.